Change management can be an overrated discipline, but why is that? That's what I want to talk about here today. My name is Eric Kimberly. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting, and we're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world reach their third stage of digital transformation success. And we help clients through their digital transformation journeys, including their software selection and digital strategy, as well as their implementations. And when we're helping clients through the implementation stage of their transformations, organizational change management is one of the big things that we help them with. And what we find, and what I've learned through my career, is that oftentimes organizational change management is overrated, or at least it can be overrated. But why is that? Why is change management overrated? Is it overrated? Should it be overrated? Those are the things I want to talk about here in today's video. Before we dive too far into today's content, I want to share a little bit of information about Third Stage Consulting and who we are. Third Stage Consulting Group is an independent, technology agnostic provider of consulting services to help clients through their digital transformations. We help with digital strategy and software selection, as well as implementation planning. And during implementation, we provide services related to program management, organizational change, business process improvement, as well as enterprise architecture. These are just some of the services we provide. We have offices in North America as well as Europe and Asia Pacific. So if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to check out our resource center, which includes a number of resources that will help you through your digital transformation, and you can access that for free using the QR code here or the links below. You can also reach out to me directly if you'd like to discuss your digital transformation and brainstorm ideas on how to improve where you're headed on your journey. Now let's jump back into today's content. The first scenario where organizational change management is going to be overrated is that management is not supportive of change. In situations where executives and mid-level management doesn't buy into the change, they don't support it, they don't believe in it, they're not on board with it, they're not walking the talk in addition to talking the talk. When that situation exists, then yes, organizational change management is going to be overrated. It's going to be viewed as a nuisance. It's going to be viewed as something that's highly ineffective, because organizational change management, no matter how well it's done, cannot be effective without effective support from management, including the executives of the organization. Now, the good news with this is that even though it's almost impossible for a change initiative to succeed without executive and management involvement, is that if you are part of a change team that's facing these sort of headwinds, there are some things you can start to do to mitigate this specific risk. For example, by doing a stakeholder assessment and doing stakeholder management activities throughout the project, that is a way for us to identify who the different management team members are, the executive team members, the influencers, understand who is supportive of the project and who is not. And once we've identified who is not supportive of the project, we can start to work one-on-one with those executives to understand why they're not. And oftentimes when we go through this exercise, we find that there's typically a good reason why executives or managers are not on board. Maybe they have competing priorities. Maybe they don't have the resources to commit to the project. Maybe they don't fully understand why the change is happening. Maybe they view this as a technology initiative that should be simple and shouldn't involve the human side of change. Whatever the case may be, we need to understand what the sources of resistance are and what is causing executives and managers not to support the project. Once we understand that, then we can create a change strategy to collaborate and work with those executives and management team members to ensure that we get them on board, or at the very least, we neutralize the potential negative impact they might have by not being fully supportive of the project. Another situation where change management is going to be an overrated activity on your digital transformation is when change management happens in an ivory tower. And what I mean by this is there's a certain subset of change practitioners out there that operate in an ivory tower, for lack of a better word. They are change theorists, they're academics. They like to work at the theoretical level, and they don't necessarily like to get down in the details and the weeds of how operations works, how technology works, and how people work. And in order to be an effective change manager, it is extremely important that you understand some of these technicalities and some of these detailed nuances of what an organization does and what an operational model looks like. Now, one of the best things that happened in my career when I was first starting off as a change management consultant is I worked for a partner at one of the big consulting firms that essentially forced me to go get certified in a certain technology. And I did not want to do it. It was the last thing I wanted to do, was learn how technology works, learn how to configure software, learn how to customize software. I didn't want to do any of that. I was not a technical consultant. But what I learned, and what I quickly learned after that, is that by having that technical understanding, even though I wasn't a coder or a developer or someone that did the hands-on work within the technology, I understood how the technology worked, and that made me better at being a good change manager. In addition to that, I was also able to speak the language and learn the operations of each client I worked with that I think made me better at being an effective change management consultant. So if you're going to be effective as a change manager, it's really important that you don't operate in this ivory tower that's removed from the front lines of operations and the front lines of technologies that the organization may be deploying. Another common reason why change management efforts can be overrated is because they're not integrated with other work streams within the overall project. If you're deploying technologies and you're going through a digital transformation, chances are pretty high you have a number of different work streams supporting the project. You have technical work streams, you have process improvement work streams, you have architecture and data, integration, analytics, all kinds of things happening throughout the project that may not seem related to change management, but they very much are. And in order for change management to stick, in order for change management to work within an organization, it has to be integrated with these other work streams. Now, this is difficult because a lot of times technical consultants who are not change managers don't see the value of change management. And so the tricky part of being a change manager is you have to embed yourself and integrate yourself with other work streams so that you're involved with those decisions around technical design, or involved in decisions around process improvements, or certainly anything that has to do with training or communications. You need to make sure that the overall change management initiative is integrated throughout the rest of the project. If it's not, what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a separate work stream and a separate set of deliverables that don't reflect the realities of what's happening in the core project, and you're going to get misaligned, and you're going to end up with a change effort that's not at all integrated with what's really happening from a technology and operational and process perspective. The other reason why this is so important is because change management is more often than not on the critical path of a project. And for those that don't know, or if you haven't been a project manager, a critical path work stream or a critical path task within a project plan is something that means that if that task gets delayed, the overall project gets delayed. So for example, if you have an 18-month project, a task that takes 1 or 2 days may not push the project out 1 or 2 days because you've got some buffer in there. But if it's on the critical path, it means every day or two that gets delayed on that work stream is going to directly delay the project. And the reason for this is because change management and humans' ability to change quickly is often a lot slower than we would expect. In fact, humans change slower than technology can get deployed typically. So that means that the human change management piece is going to be on the critical path, and we as change managers have to ensure that our change activities fit into the overall implementation plan. And again, it may mean that some of these change activities are going to take longer than the technologists can build, design, and deploy new technologies. So it's really important that you have project management and executives that support change management and recognize the need to integrate the different pieces of change management with other parts of the project. Otherwise, change efforts will indeed be something that's overrated and won't deliver the value you expect within your organization. Another common reason why organizational change management is so overrated throughout digital transformations is because the project team itself doesn't fully understand what the changes are going to be. The project team hasn't taken the time to define the future state business processes in detail. They haven't documented what roles and responsibilities are going to be. They're myopically focused on building technology and rolling technology out to the organization. And that's very different than defining business processes from the start. And we as change managers need to understand what the change impacts are, how people's jobs are going to change, so we can start to collaborate with them and communicate with them and do a two-way discussion around how their jobs are going to change so that they're not surprised when we get to end user training and start to train them on how to use the new technology to do their new jobs. If you think about artificial intelligence and some of the automation tools that are available to us today in enterprise technologies, those impacts to organizations and to people in particular are very extreme. And if we don't clearly define what someone's job is going to look like in the future, it's going to create resistance to change, it's going to create resentment, it's going to create change management problems. So we have to have a clear vision of what the changes are, who's affected, how they're affected, and that ultimately becomes the foundation for our change management strategies in order for it to be successful. If we don't take the time to do that, then change management becomes just an overrated activity that is largely considered a waste of time and money. One of the downsides of being a change manager or part of a change management team is that you oftentimes get blamed when things don't go well from a people perspective, especially when you're in the middle of an implementation and you get resistance to change, or you have people asking questions or doubting the project. Oftentimes it's easy to blame the change managers or the change management team. And this is a very unhealthy dynamic that we often see within organizations, which is why it's important as a change manager and a change management team to set the expectations with your project team and your stakeholders and your executive sponsors that change is difficult and people are going to resist change. Your job as change managers is to address those changes. And of course, we would love to anticipate and proactively address every single possible point of resistance within the organization, but the reality is it's not going to happen. You might hit 90 or 95% of that proactively, but it's that 5% of people that you don't proactively address, or that no matter what you do, they're going to resist the change. And those oftentimes become the loudest voices or the squeakiest wheel in the project. And it's easy to blame the change manager when those voices get so loud or when the wheel gets even squeakier, but it's important to set that expectation as a change manager that this is how change works. And we have to not only proactively address change, but sometimes we have to reactively react to change resistance as well. So if you're in an organization that's just viewing change management as a nice to have, and then people are going to start to point fingers at the change management team when things get messy, and by the way, they will get messy, it always does get messy during a digital transformation, then that's going to be a problem, and change management will be an overrated function within your digital transformation. So while, yes, it's true, sometimes organizational change management can be overrated, if you manage change appropriately and you get people on board with change management as a discipline, then it is not overrated. In fact, it is highly valuable to an organization. In fact, I would argue that change management is the most important critical success factor for a digital transformation. I hope this has provided you some things to think about and some guidance as you go through your change initiatives. If you'd like to learn more about change management and how to be effective in your change efforts, I encourage you to read our Guide to Organizational Change Management. It's a report you can download for free on our website, and it shares some of the best practices and lessons we've learned from having helped thousands of organizations throughout the world through their digital transformation from an organizational change management perspective. You can read that paper by scanning the QR code in front of you or by going to the links below. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day. There are some things you can start to do to help soften the blow. No, to anytime there's resistance to change or.
Oh, yep. Classic.
Does anyone work around here?
No.
I mean, rather than just defining what the new technology, that is fully aligned and integrated within the organization. That didn't make any sense. Hold on, that doesn't. Those are just words that don't mean anything.